To Mpumalanga now, where the Ermelo Magistrate Court has postponed the case against 4 Eskom employees and 1 contractor to next week Tuesday. They are charged with tampering with infrastructure after Eskom security arrested them. The first 2 were arrested over 2 weeks ago, with the other 3 arrested last week following the theft of heavy fuel oil valued at R500,000. The suspects have pleaded not guilty. The driver of the truck claimed the fuel had been offloaded, but it was discovered that the truck was still full. The driver was arrested as he attempted to flee. The oil was meant to be loaded onto Eskom machines for power generation. The matter has been postponed for further evidence and bail application. The suspects remain in custody. Still on Eskom, the power utility has provided its outlook for the summer period 1st September 2024 to 31st March 2025, revising its summer outlook base case downwards by 1,500 megawatts from the previous year's summer outlook. The power utility says the load-shedding-free winter enables a likely scenario of a load-shedding-free summer due to structural generation improvements. Joining us to discuss the summer outlook is energy specialist and Sinan Energy CEO Mohamed Mahdi. Good evening, Mr. Mahdi. Thank you very much for joining us on The Full View. So we're now on 153 consecutive days without load-shedding, and Eskom seems to be confident that beyond the load-shedding-free winter, they could give us a load-shedding-free summer. Your views on this?
Good evening, and good evening to the viewers. Look, we have to commend the fact that there hasn't been load shedding for over 150 days. There's no doubt, that's been a good performance. And if that continues into the summer, that would be excellent for the economy and excellent for the country. The thing that we just have to be a little bit careful about is, when you have a milder winter, you're likely to have a very hot summer. And if that is the case, then there's going to be an extra demand on the grid. And if that indeed does happen, there is going to be pressure on the system. Now, the fact of the matter is we still have a large number of power stations that are old. No matter how good the maintenance has been in the last couple of months, they have been not looked after in the way they should have for many, many years prior to that. So the chances, and this was acknowledged yesterday, and it was good to see that the chairman of Eskom acknowledges this, the chances of something happening still exist. And it is likely that we could have some sort of outage, especially if the weather, becomes much hotter than we anticipate.
So you're saying let's manage our expectations, even though they seem to have accelerated their maintenance program. But let's look at the 10 billion that they seem to have saved due to the decreased dependence on the open cycle gas turbines, which they say resulted in a 74% reduction in diesel costs. What did you make of that?
I think that is true. That is, again, that's very commendable. There are 2 primary reasons for that. The one is Eskom's increased and accelerated maintenance, the improved performance of the generation fleet. Undoubtedly, that's had an impact. But equally important is that the private sector have been building a very large number of behind-the-meter power plants. And these power plants typically include battery energy storage, large-scale battery energy storage, which allows the Eskom peak, load to be reduced quite considerably. And this has definitely helped Eskom and will continue to help Eskom as the private sector continues to build these behind-the-meter plants.
Which is something that isn't spoken about often. We just constantly hear of the accelerated maintenance. But they've also attributed this, which we're seeing now, to partnering with the original equipment manufacturers, which was quite a debatable one, because with the responsibility that Eskom has always felt it had to ensure that they give business to smaller or medium enterprises, this time around, they decided to be bold and go the route of using those original manufacturers. Your views on just that decision and as the fact that it's now yielded some great benefits?
So the question one would have to ask in a case like that is, why only now? Eskom has been in business for over 100 years. Our power plants, most of them on average are over 30 years old. This is the step that should have been taken a while ago. So the fact that it has happened, let's not be too negative about what should have been done. The fact is that it has happened, it is good, it was a good move on the part of Eskom, and it certainly has yielded results. But I think we must not overlook the fact that Eskom has had over 4 gigawatts reduction in load because of the private sector intervention over the last two years and a bit. And that is quite significant by itself.
Mohamed, when you mentioned this aspect, when you say, Mr. Mahdi, that why did it take so long? But when we watch this thing play out, it seemed as though the private sector was pushing back because they wanted to be included. They wanted the opportunity to be the ones that service these particular plants.
I think we can't really lump the private sector, into one grouping. And certainly the independent power generators are very different from the people wanting to do the servicing of these power plants. I actually think that whole process and that aspect of what happened in the past needs much further investigation and needs a more detailed explanation by Eskom in terms of why did this not happen before? Who were the beneficiaries? Which were the companies that were the beneficiaries? And what voice did they have that gave them so much influence and so much capability to do this work when undoubtedly the OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers, were much better placed and much more competent to do that work?
So you're suspecting malice here or some sort of collusion where they decided not to go to the original manufacturers to benefit perhaps people closest to them?
You see, I think what just factually, the OEMs were not approached earlier, and we need to understand why that was the case. And then we need to understand, as a matter of course, and for the benefit of the public, because this is certainly a public issue and public funds are being utilized, why, who and what were these companies and what influence did they have in terms of delaying this decision to go to the OEMs, if in fact that was the case.
Let's hope with the ongoing investigation, soon enough, it will all be divulged. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahdi, for joining us this evening. That's energy specialist and Sinan Energy CEO Mohamed Mahdi.